My name is Taylor. I'm 32 years old. 3 years ago I walked away from my family. No calls. No holidays. Nothing. I thought distance would hurt less than being invisible. But this Thanksgiving I came back. I believed success, money, and stability would finally buy me respect at that table. I was wrong. The moment my mother opened her mouth, I knew nothing had changed. And when I finally spoke, the words that came out of me burned everything down. What happened that night shattered everything I believed about family. Growing up as the youngest of 4 didn't mean being cherished. It meant being the extra, the afterthought. My mother, Martha, had her favorites and she never hid it. Sandra, the oldest, was the golden child. Married young, 3 kids living nearby. To Mom, Sandra embodied everything a woman should be: devoted, reliable, present. Beverly, the middle sister, became a nurse. Mom bragged endlessly about her long shifts, her patience, and her groceries for the house. Service she could display like a medal. And Ronald, the only son, the so-called prince, dropped out of college. Practical, Mom called it. He moved back home, smart financial planning. When he married, Mom threw the backyard wedding of the century. His failures became funny family stories. Mine became proof that I didn't belong. Then there was me, Taylor the dreamer. I wanted more than our small Ohio town could offer. Marketing campaigns, something bigger than myself. But every milestone I achieved was dismissed. College degree? When will you give me grandchildren? First job? Too far from home. Promotion? Money isn't everything. It didn't matter what I built. It wasn't what she valued. When I announced I was moving to Chicago, silence filled the dinner table. Sandra called me selfish. Beverly reminded me there were jobs closer. Mom hugged me goodbye like she was already mourning a daughter she refused to understand. Only Ronald smiled. In Chicago, I tried to keep the connection alive. Sunday calls about my tiny apartment and first projects. But conversations always shifted back to Sandra's kids, Beverly's patience, Ronald's work. When Mom finally asked about me, it was out of politeness, not interest. The calls dwindled. Weekly turned to monthly. Then just birthdays. Until one day I realized I hadn't spoken to my mother in 6 months, and she hadn't noticed. It hurt too much to sit at that table and be invisible. So I stopped showing up. No more holidays. No more pretending. But even far away their voices followed me, reminding me I was always too much or never enough. So I buried myself in work. Promotions came quickly. Within 3 years I was a marketing director at a Fortune 500 company. 6-figure salary. A team of 15. Campaigns that made headlines. On paper I was everything my family swore I wasn't. Successful, stable, important. That November Mom called. Her voice was softer than I remembered. She said Sandra's kids had asked about their aunt. She said it would mean everything to have us all together again. Hope stirred. For the first time in years I believed maybe I finally had a place. I went all out. First-class flight, a black BMW rental, a sharp new outfit. Gifts for everyone. An iPad for Mom, a console for Sandra's kids, a spa package for Beverly, kitchen appliances for Ronald and Peggy. I told myself it wasn't showing off. It was proof I cared. The night before my flight I called my best friend Louise. Taylor, success doesn't change people overnight, she warned. I brushed it off. They'll have to respect me now. But even as I said it, doubt lingered. The driveway felt smaller than I remembered. The house older. My heart raced anyway. Mom hugged me at the door. You look professional, she said. Sandra greeted me with chaos. 3 kids yelling, toys scattered everywhere. Her hug was quick, distracted. Kids, say hi to Aunt Taylor. They muttered greetings and ran off. Beverly arrived in scrubs. She smiled, but her words cut. First-class flight, huh? Aren't you fancy now? At least Ronald was warm. Good to see you, he said, proudly introducing me to Peggy. She's the one who made it in Chicago. For a moment my chest eased. At least someone was proud. The gifts landed with mixed reactions. Sandra said it was too much. Beverly muttered she had no time for a spa. Mom stared at the iPad like it didn't belong to her. Only Ronald's gratitude felt real. Later, when Beverly set the table, I noticed something. 7 chairs for 8 people. You missed a place, I said lightly. He shrugged. Oh, the kids are in the living room. Just grab the kitchen stool. The stool, from our childhood. Barely tall enough to reach the table. Heat rose up my neck. Was it careless or deliberate? Either way, the message landed. I forced a smile. Sure. The stool is fine. So while everyone else settled, I perched lower, slightly outside the circle. Conversation flowed easily. Sandra's PTA meetings, Beverly's patients, Ronald's projects. Mom beamed with pride at all of it. I waited for someone to ask about me. No one did. Finally I spoke. So I have news. Polite silence. My team just finished a campaign bringing 200 new manufacturing jobs to Ohio and Michigan. That's nice, Beverly said flatly. Money isn't everything, Mom added. Sandra nodded. Some people forget what matters. Heat climbed my neck. This isn't about money, I said. It's about impact, families. Sandra's smile was thin. There's a difference between caring about people and caring about profit. Something split inside me. Maybe it was time to tell them how I'd been paying for my seat all along. Since we're talking about caring, I said softly, I've been covering Mom's bills for 2 years. Chairs scraped. Forks froze. Mom blinked. What are you talking about? The electric. The internet. Groceries. And the rent. Beverly frowned. Rent. Mom owns this house. No, I said. She hasn't for 2 years. After the surgery the bills stacked up. He had to sell. She's been renting it back. And when she fell behind she called me. Sandra turned to Mom. Is this true? Mom stared at the table. It wasn't supposed to be permanent, I continued. I didn't do it to buy favor. I did it to keep the lights on. Ronald's voice was small. My car insurance. Was that you? I nodded. Rent. $1,200. Utilities and groceries on top. Ronald, $150. Sandra went pale. That's more than any of us could pay. This is why I moved, I said quietly. To build something strong enough to hold the people I love. Mom lifted her head, eyes bright with anger and shame. How dare you bring this up at dinner? We are not a charity case. We were fine before you came back waving your money around. I laughed once. You are not fine. You called me crying. Her jaw clenched. I asked my daughter, not a banker. And you got both, I said. Silence consumed the room. A cartoon giggled faintly from the living room. Mom stood, palms flat on the table. Her voice was low, cold, precise. You think money earns you love? You think it buys you respect? She leaned closer. You don't deserve a seat at this table. I stood. The stool scraped against tile. Every head turned. You say I don't deserve a seat? I said. Okay. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a familiar contact. Mom's chin lifted. Taylor, don't you dare make a scene. This isn't a scene, I said. It's a boundary. I pulled out my phone. Banking services. How may I help you? Hi, this is Taylor Morrison. I need to cancel several automatic payments. Sandra shoved back her chair. Taylor, stop. We can talk about this. We've been talking for years, I said. You weren't listening. Which payments? The rep asked. Rent to Morrison Property Management. $1,200. Effective today. Mom's knuckles whitened. You can't do this. You told me you didn't need my money, I said. Prove it. Next, electric $300. Internet $80. Grocery allowance to Martha Morrison, $400. Beverly reached for my phone. I shifted back. Don't, I warned. You said you wanted honesty. This is honesty. Ronald's voice was small. My insurance, $150. Was that you? I raised the phone to my ear. Cancel that too. In the living room a cartoon character laughed. At the table no one else did. Sandra whispered, this is cruel. No, I said. Quiet was cruel. The stool was cruel. Pretending my work didn't matter was cruel. This, I held their gaze. This is clarity. I looked at my mother, the woman who taught me coupons and receipts, who refused help until the roof leaked. I didn't want to embarrass you, I said. I wanted to keep you safe. Her eyes watered then hardened. The rep returned. All payments cancelled, Miss Morrison. Confirmations will follow. Thank you, I said, ending the call. I slipped the phone into my purse. No more checks. No more quiet deposits. No more buying my way into a chair you never planned to set. Mom stood. You're punishing us because your feelings got hurt. My feelings. My voice cracked. My feelings kept this house warm, kept the fridge full, kept Ronald on the road. Peggy whispered, "What do we do now?" "What I did in Chicago," I said. "Make a plan. Share the load." I grabbed my coat. "Tomorrow I'm going to my hotel. Then I fly back to Chicago." Beverly wiped her eyes. "Taylor, wait." "I waited 3 years," I said. "I'm done waiting." I paused at the doorway looking back at the table, 7 chairs and a stool. "For what it's worth," I added softer, "I didn't want to be your banker. I wanted to be your daughter." I thought I'd ended the conversation, but the call I got 2 days later proved otherwise. "Taylor," Mom whispered. "I went to the bank. I saw the numbers. You didn't know." Her voice cracked. "We tried splitting the bills. Even with everyone pitching in, it's tight." I was angry at the wrong thing. Proud of the wrong things. That day we finally talked. About the surgery she hid, the house she sold, the shame that turned help into a secret. I told her about the nights in Chicago when I worked until the city went quiet, and still felt like the girl on the kitchen stool. "I'm sorry," she said. "Not for the money, for making you earn love that should have been yours." "If we start over," I said, "it has to be honest." A week later we had a family call. Cameras on. Bills on the table. Sandra admitted her jealousy. Beverly confessed she'd dismissed my career to protect her own choices. Ronald promised to cover his insurance and contribute each month. We made a plan. No secrets. No quiet deposits. If I helped, it would be clear, limited, agreed on. Respect wasn't a reward. It was the rule. 6 months later, I came back for Sandra's birthday. 8 places were set. A real chair where the stool used to be. Mom touched it. "It's yours if you want it." I sat level with everyone. No questions about salary or titles. They asked about me. Family isn't a prize you buy or a debt you collect. It's a table you choose and refuse to crawl under for crumbs. If you're standing in the doorway wondering whether to walk back in, hear me. Love without boundaries becomes permission for harm. Generosity without respect becomes a leash. Choosing yourself isn't betrayal. It's the beginning. I don't write quiet checks anymore. I don't beg for a chair. When I sit, it's because I chose the table and they chose me back. If this felt familiar, say I'm here, and tell me where you're watching from.